Hi guys, welcome back. I know it's been a while since I last commentated, but as you may have noticed, I've taken a bit of time out of YouTube just to really figure out what I want this channel to be moving forward. Right now I feel I have a pretty good understanding of what that is. So essentially I'm going to start a new series where I take my favourite games and just do retrospectives with them, and later on hopefully expand into TV and film. I want to do this type of video for quite a while now, but I finally decided just to stop delaying and get on with it. So basically how I'm going to break these videos down is through a bit of personal history, the story and credits, the gameplay, music, and then the overall summary of what I think. So starting with the personal history, so Batman Arkham Asylum holds a special place in my heart because this is the game that got me into Batman. So I want to start with a little story, hopefully it's not too long. But basically, the year was 2009, and back then in the UK we had a couple gaming shows which would show off the latest trailers and demos for upcoming games. The shows I watched were called Player, Player 2 and Jinx TV, back in the early to mid 2000s. Kind of what YouTube is today. Anyway, one of the games shown was of course Batman Arkham Asylum, and apart from having some action figures of Batman, I didn't really know anything or really cared for him, as I was always a Spider-Man kid. 90s cartoon was the best. So when I saw the trailer for Arkham Asylum, I was in actual shock at how good this game looked, even just graphically. But then something happened. A certain character appeared. This character would stop me from playing this game for the next 2 years. Scarecrow. Now for anyone who's played Asylum knows that the Scarecrow segments, especially the last one, are some of the best the game has to offer, but back then he just scared the shit out of me. Anyway, Scarecrow being in that trailer put me off buying the game, something I regret even to this day, and delayed the inevitable. So come to 2011, the trailer for Arkham Asylum's sequel, Arkham City, was released, and I was hyped even before I knew what the word meant. It honestly might not have even been around back then, but I was excited nonetheless. A few weeks passed and I was staying around my friend's house and he asked me if I'd ever seen Batman Begins, to which I said no, and we watch up until Bruce and Ra's fight on the icy lake before I sin and asked him to turn it off because it was boring. Now that's something I've never told you, Ollie. I know. One of the best pieces of Batman media and I thought it was boring. Jesus, I had no taste back then. Anyway, a few weeks passed and I'm in a game with my dad and I have a 3 for 2 offer on, and we've both picked a game that we want, but we obviously need one more. So I see this copy of Arkham Asylum just sitting there begging for my attention, so I asked my dad and we get that too. What followed was an amazing experience, one of my favourite gaming memories to this day. I happened upon the dreaded Scarecrow segment, unbeknownst to me that I had to face him a couple more times, but I remember beating him the first time and telling my friend at school, and he just told me that you have to fight him at least 3 or 4 more times. It wasn't quite that many, but it did scare me again. I didn't want to see that thing again. After a couple of days I finally beat it and I was ready for its sequel Arkham City in just a couple of months, but before then I had to redeem myself. I met with my friend who tried showing me Batman Begins and asked him to let me try again, and he agreed, and we ended up finishing it and moving on to The Dark Knight as well. The moment I got home I told my dad that we need to get both these films, so we popped on Amazon and we did. Me and my mum watched Batman Begins, where she told my dad that he needs to watch this right now. So we moved on to The Dark Knight, which she preferred, and told him to also watch that one. So then we all ended up watching The Dark Knight together. So my day was pretty productive, I think. You know, Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and then The Dark Knight again. Such an amazing experience, which led to our excitement for The Dark Knight Rises. Hopefully this segment doesn't take too long, but I just wanted to give you a bit of backstory on why I love and respect this game so much, because it single-handedly got me interested in this character's mythos and has been a huge part of my life for the past 10 years across TV, film, games, and now even comics. So let's finally start the video. Credits and story. Batman Arkham Asylum released in 2009 for PS3, Xbox 360 and PC, with a remaster in 2016 for PS4 and Xbox One. The game had a pretty simple premise. Batman is trapped in Arkham surrounded by his most iconic villains. Kevin Conroy reprised his iconic take on The Dark Knight, as well as Mark Hamill in his unforgettable portrayal of the Joker. They weren't the only two returning from Batman the Animated Series, as you also had Arlene Sorkin back as the clown princess of crime, Harley Quinn. This game was developed by an unknown studio at the time with only one other game under their belt, Rocksteady, and published by Eidos Interactive and Warner Bros. Interactive. Asylum was directed by Sefton Hill, written by Batman the Animated Series writer Paul Dini, and musical score composed by Nick Arundel and Ron Fish. The game starts with Batman just having apprehended the Joker and taken him to Arkham Asylum. However, having captured Joker so easily, Batman senses something else is going on, and so upon arriving at the asylum and greeting Commissioner Gordon, Batman tells him that he's going to tag along until Joker is in his cell. Once Joker is wheeled off, his plan to take over Arkham is underway, and the hunt is on. Now that you're exploring the asylum, you'll come across a hostage situation where a guard is in an electric chair controlled by Victor Zsasz, and you have to use the gargoyles to get behind him and take him out. Now that the hostage is safe, it's time to continue tracking Joker, which isn't too hard. Just follow the mayhem left in his wake and you'll come across a room filled with laughing gas and both guards and inmates holding on for dear life. After rescuing everyone, you finally come face to face with the Joker. However, he's not ready to go back just yet, so he shows you his latest creation, a Titan Thug, who has a similar appearance to a version of Bane. The Thug has a heart attack and dies in front of you, with the Joker giving Batman a clear shot to kill him right there, right then, to stop the madness, the chaos, the death. But Batman hesitates. He knows he can't, that's what Joker wants, so he escapes. Returning to where Joker initially escaped, Batman sets up a crime scene to find Gordon. Knowing that a guard named Frank Bowles was with him at the time, Batman locates some alcohol Bowles was drinking prior and follows the air particles to his last known position. However, he's dead. With no new trail, Batman decides to exit the intensive treatment ward to roam Arkham Asylum and find a clue to where Jim has gone, but an obstacle causes him to detour to the Batmobile to retrieve a gadget, the explosive gel, so that he can break through a weak wall and continue his search. Heading to Arkham Mansion, he sees Harley Quinn once more behind an electric field. Knowing that Harley is his best bet to finding Gordon, he finds another way in. Now, having rescued 3 doctors, including Dr. Penelope Young, an elevator has been called to their level. Batman disperses the doctors with help from Aaron Cash and takes care of Joker's goons. Taking the elevator down, Batman begins to cough. A strange toxin fills the air. We are now witness to victims of the Scarecrow. We come across Gordon, but we're too late. Batman tries to contact his daughter Barbara, but it seems we've dialed the wrong number. A new goal is established. Capture Scarecrow. However, after some more mind games, he jumps Batman and we enter the first nightmare sequence of the game. We must do everything possible to avoid Crane's gaze, or else we will succumb to our deepest fears. Now free from the nightmare and Scarecrow having escaped this time, we continue through the asylum where Joker has sent some thugs to slow us down. Joker says there's one more puzzle before we can get Gordon back, and of course it's a trap. If seen, Harley will kill Jim without hesitation, so we literally get the drop on her, team up with Gordon and discover an unethical experiment being done to Bane. The Joker pumps Venom back into him, releasing Bane in the process. We have to stop Bane before he makes tonight even more difficult. After wrapping him around the hood of your car, we send Gordon to, well, safety's probably not the best word to describe Gotham, but Jim is off the island and is one less thing to worry about. Opening a case into Dr. Young, as Bane told us she was responsible for his condition, we head to the secret Batcave located under Arkham Asylum and begin looking into Young and her excessive outside funding, which Batman determines Joker is behind it, as he would be able to create an army of Banes. Finally returning to the surface with a new gadget in the Batclaw, we now have a way into Arkham Mansion. Attempting to find Dr. Young, the last people to have seen her were attacked by inmates, which led to her disappearance. Joker tells Batman that Cash is being held hostage by his goons, and if anyone knows where Dr. Young may be, it will be him. Aaron tells us that he told her to run and that our best bet of finding her is to check her office. However, reaching her office, she is nowhere to be seen. No worries though, as Batman sets up a crime scene and locates fingerprints, so we finally have a solid lead. It also seems that the Doctor got to her notes on the Titan formula before Joker. During this time, the GCPD was informed that Joker had planted bombs all over Gotham to deter them from entering Arkham, but it was full of nothing but marzipan and kittens. But of course Batman already suspected as much. Following Young's fingerprints back to the library, we realise she hid her notes in a book that we destroy as the information is too dangerous for anyone to have. On our way back, we have flashbacks to that night in Crime Alley, and before we know it, we're back in Scarecrow's world. We're able to stop Crane once more. We head over to Quincy Sharp's office where we find Victor Zsasz again, and he has another hostage. It's Dr. Young, but we can't follow Zsasz as it will definitely kill her, so when he's exposed we use a batarang on him, knocking him out. Having rescued the Doctor, we're informed that Joker already had her formula as well as gallons of venom. Dr. Young says that there's a secret lab in the Botanical Gardens, which is where Joker is most likely to manufacture Titan, but the codes are in Sharp's safe. Unfortunately, before we know it, the safe explodes, killing Dr. Young and in turn denying us access to the lab. Our only logical step is to find Sharp, who has just been taken by Harley, so following the trail left behind by him, we track him to the penitentiary. Fighting our way through inmates and Wayne's security systems, we finally make it to Sharp, who gives us the access code. Encountering Harley, we follow her to an escape room situation, guards hanging over electrified water, bombs and laughing gas. After rescuing some more hostages, Harley is kicked off the party list for failing her objectives, so in a rage she tries to fight Batman, resulting in him scanning her fingerprints to figure out where she's been on the island, as well as a list of people Joker wants in the grand finale. Then Harley accidentally gives up the Joker's location. Moving through the botanical gardens and saving even more guards locked up in death traps, we finally find the secret lab and confront the Joker. But before we can try that, Joker throws 2 of his Titan-powered thugs at us. Once defeated, we destroy the lab, however Joker managed to escape with enough to still be a problem. Realising that plants are a key part to the Titan process, we decide to talk to Poison Ivy, as when it comes to plants, she'll do anything to protect them. Needing Ivy to create an antidote to the Titan with a little persuasion, she tells us there's a plant growing deep in Arkham Island. A sample of this would be enough to create an antidote, but the problem is it's located in Killer Croc's lair. Needing a way in, we head back to Cash and he tells us we can access his cell through the intensive treatment ward. But when heading back to the start, something happens, a glitch, laughing. We're brought back to the start, except this time things have changed. Joker is driving Batman to Arkham Asylum and is diagnosed by the likes of Harley, Scarecrow and Joker, where we ultimately get shot. Instead of returning to the last checkpoint, however, we rise from a grave and once more are in Scarecrow's nightmare world. But this is it. Batman will catch Crane this time, no exceptions. We chase him down to the sewers where Scarecrow threatens to drop Batman's deepest fears into the water supply, submitting everyone in Arkham to those same nightmares. But from beneath the surface comes Killer Croc, grabbing Crane and throwing him into the water, with him dropping Batman's fears on the ground in the process. We are now at the entrance to Croc's lair, but before we head in, let's leave a little something just in case things get dicey. We progress through the lair and collect the samples from the plant Ivy told us about, but it's never that simple, as we have to keep throwing batarangs at Croc to stop him from getting us. After being chased back to the entrance with the samples, Croc finally emerges, and with no other way out, with precise timing, we detonate the trap set earlier, crumbling the floor beneath him and causing Croc to fall into what seems to be an abyss. Heading back to the Batcave under Arkham, we begin to analyse the plant samples and start synthesising an antidote to the Titan formula. Having created a small amount, from all around Ivy sends their vines to destroy the Bat computer and thus stop the mass production of the antidote. Using the Ultra Bat Claw upgrade, we are able to escape and go after Ivy. But before that, we see Ivy's plants are storing Titan, allowing it to be dispersed into Gotham's water supply. Talking to Oracle, we're told we have to stop 3 water pump stations in order to halt the process. We stop the pumps and head to the elevator, but we're trapped in a room full of goons and a Titan thug. Escaping the sewers, we head back to the botanical gardens where we see the Titan enhancing Ivy's plants and making her stronger, so it's now or never. It appears that Ivy has no interest with continuing to help the Joker and states that she'll deal with him after she's done with us. Ivy tries to stop us by mind controlling guards, but that doesn't work. We march on. We battle Ivy and send her back underground as the gardens crumble around us and we make a quick escape. The Joker's party is about to begin and tells Batman to get his ass to the cell block. There we're met by a large group of thugs who we decide to fight. We walk down a corridor where a sitting Joker dummy with a TV on his head is talking to us, except this time it's actually the Joker and the TV is in fact a bomb which goes off, flooring us. Joker is sitting on a throne of bones and has 2 pet Titan thugs, and after some back and forth we once again battle 2 Titan thugs as well as a large group of goons before it is revealed that Joker has recaptured Gordon and points a Titan fused dart at him, a dart which Batman jumps in front of. Seeing Batman resist the transformation infuriates the Joker. He decides to shoot himself with a dart too, so that they can both duke it out in a battle of brawn. With Jack Ryder now hovering over Arkham with a news helicopter live streaming the events that are about to unfold, we see a Titan Joker emerge from the floorboards holding Batman. The Joker tries to get him to give in to the Titan, but instead Batman uses the antidote on himself, which surprises Joker a little, but then the two engage in the final fight. After some showboating on Joker's side, Batman is able to land the final superpowered punch by spraying his hand with explosive gel and literally knocking Joker's teeth out. We then see the GCPD returning all of the inmates back to their cells, with the Joker crazier than usual. Batman and Gordon finally have a quick exchange, but then a call over the police radio reports that Two-Face is robbing the Second National Bank, so Batman grapples up to the Batwing and heads into Gotham as his night has only just begun. There are 3 different variations of the after credits which show either Bane, Killer Croc or Scarecrow rising out of the water and climbing onto a crate of Titan, a little foreshadowing that these characters will be back in the future. So that's my story breakdown. I tried to breeze over some bits just to keep the game fresh for you if you decide to play it after watching this video. So now let's move on to the gameplay. The gameplay in its most basic form breaks down into 3 sections: combat, stealth and investigation. Combat being the main gameplay feature of this series is easy to pick up but somewhat hard to master. At least in this game it's very basic and there's not a huge amount of depth to it. But this first entry in the Arkham series lays a great foundation for future titles. The combat system is essentially attack, counter and dodge, which sounds simple enough, but as you progress through the story, level up and purchase upgrades for Batman, if you put the time in and practice, you can become an extremely efficient and unstoppable crime fighter. The upgrades for the combat system, which I'll separate into abilities and passives, include for the ability side, a special combat throw, which upon reaching a combo of 8+ gives you the ability to throw an enemy either into an object or another enemy, dealing additional damage, giving you some breathing room and looking cool as hell. Special combo takedown. Now this ability continues throughout the other games in the series and back in the day was my go-to move. Once more, getting a combo of 8 or higher will allow Batman to instantly take down an enemy, which is really useful if you have stronger enemies on the field like gun, knife or stun baton wielders. Moving on to the passive abilities now. First off, we have the special combo boost. Now this one is really simple. Basically the aforementioned abilities, rather than having to get to an 8-hit combo, you now only need 5 to pull one off, making it quicker to deal with larger groups as the game progresses. Combo Batarang. So normally if you try and throw a Batarang during combat, it will end your combo then and there. However, if you achieve a 3-hit combo and then use it, it will not only continue your combo but deal massive damage to whoever you just hurled a sharp piece of metal at. Critical combo strikes allow you to deal double damage as well as each hit count as 2 in your combo, but there is a trade-off. You have to time your strike perfectly after your previous one, so as Batman finishes the previous punch or kick, you have to be ready to follow up immediately to activate this passive, and you also have to have at least a 3-hit combo to be able to perform this one too. The final one for combat is the Batarang power. So as it sounds, you just do more damage and will leave an enemy on the floor longer, the latter of which can be useful sometimes. Let's say there's lots of enemies in a particular fight, but it can also stop your combo if you run out of people to hit. So stealth, as it might sound, is about being quiet and unnoticed and striking from the shadows as Batman would. However, in this game it's more basic than the combat system, and that doesn't mean it's bad, don't get me wrong, but it's definitely not as in-depth as the free flow combat system. However, it actually weirdly has more skills in the Wayne Tech upgrade system devoted to it. Starting off, we have the main stealth upgrade, which is the inverted takedown, which lets Batman hang upside down on a gargoyle, and when an enemy is underneath him is allowed to swoop down and instantly take him out of the battle. Very effective if you also want to draw the other enemies in the room to that location, as the thug you grab will be screaming and bringing attention to himself. Now the next two I'm going to do together as they're really the same, but the twin and triple Batarangs. So as you can probably guess again, you can either choose 1, 2 or 3 Batarangs to knock down as many enemies as needed. The remote control Batarang is a manually guided Batarang which allows you to control exactly where you want it to go, whether that's knock down or distract an enemy. Its main use though really is if you can't get a good view of someone, so for example they're underground in a room, then you can throw one of these, guide it down and around to its target. The Sonic Batarang, I would say, is one of your most useful gadgets in Arkham Asylum, as in its default form its sole purpose is to distract and position an enemy where you want him. However, with the next upgrade, the Sonic Shock Batarang, it goes from just being a distraction device to a weapon with the ability, if timed correctly, to instantly take down an enemy. However, once more the trade-off is that you can only use 1 per Predator encounter. The final 2 Predator upgrades are related to the explosive gel gadget, the first of which is the multiple frequency detonator, which when scoped in lets you select however many explosive gels in sight you wish to detonate instead of all of them at once, and the second upgrade, the auto proximity detonator, which simply causes the explosive gel to detonate on its own when an enemy gets close enough. Now that's all the upgrades for the combat and stealth sides of gameplay, but there are still 6 more upgrades I will go through quickly now before moving on to the investigation side of the gameplay. The first 4 are all the same and called Armor Upgrade V1, V2, V3 and V4, and adds 25% of your base health per upgrade, so once you unlock Armor Upgrade V4 you would have double the health you did at the start of the game. The last 2 upgrades relate to the cryptographic sequencer gadget and are used for the Riddler puzzles, mainly. Cryptographic range amplifier increases the range at which you can access a security panel, and the cryptographic power amplifier, which makes finding the right signal much easier. Now that I've covered the free flow combat system and the Predator and counter upgrades and mechanics, I will move on to the final part of the gameplay for this section, talking about the investigation segments. Now, as we all know by now, Batman is the world's greatest detective. Being such an important part of his character as he was introduced in Detective Comics, or DC, this game wouldn't be Batman without it. There are 5 detective segments in Arkham Asylum and they aren't the best and only serve to take you from one place to another, which is what they do in future games in the series, but the systems are a lot more engaging in those titles. Essentially, you will scan an item of interest, and I'll say them all now. Frank Bowles' favourite alcohol, Gordon's favourite tobacco, Pamela Isley's pheromone trail, Quincy Sharp's DNA, and Harley Quinn's fingerprints. Once again, for a first game where everything had to be built from scratch, I understand, but these aren't the most entertaining sections of the game, as you're either following breath trails, spilt tobacco, or fingerprints. I wouldn't have minded 1 or 2 of these sections, but 5 is a bit excessive in my opinion, but like I said, they're not bad, there's just too many of them. Thankfully, the detective aspect of the other games improved a lot, and although they use the same type of detective work in their respective games, at least the way in which you investigate is much more engaging and interesting than basically following a waypoint. So, the music in Batman Arkham Asylum was composed by Nick Arundel and Ron Fish and consisted of 27 tracks that covered a bunch of story beats as well as combat, predator and detective segments, along with character themes sprinkled in there too. This soundtrack is incredible and really reminds me of the Batman the Animated Series soundtrack composed by Shirley Walker, that series of which appears to have been a huge inspiration for this game. Along with this though, there were definitely feels of Hans Zimmer's The Dark Knight score in a few of the tracks which, whether intended or not, were a nice touch. A few of my favourite tracks include A Plan Revealed, Joker Escapes, Predator, Where's Jim, Harley Fights Back, and Enter the Asylum, which is the theme for the game. Nick and Ron did amazing work on this score and their work only gets better as time goes on. So, in summary, I love this game. It officially introduced me to the character of Batman and his universe. Arkham Asylum will always have a place in my heart for doing so, and I will continue recommending this game to anyone looking to get into Batman or those who just love video games. I'm looking at you, Ward. Thanks to this game, I've gone on to watch his various incarnations on the big screen to his animated adventures, most recently the comics, and it's even inspired me to write a 60-page script as well as how I'll do a live action series if given the chance. So as I'm starting to wrap this up, all I can say is play it if you haven't, and if you have, play it again. Why not? Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed my retrospective of Batman Arkham Asylum. As this is my first time doing this kind of video, I'm still trying to figure out my own style, which I know will come naturally with more practice. I'm really enjoying this type of content and the creative process that comes with it, so I hope you stick around for this new era of the channel. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave any feedback down in the comments, and if you're willing, suggest any other games for me to look at in the future. Take care.